Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is. God bless you guys. And today I want to come to you and bring you a video about why you should buy the Smith & Wesson 6906. All right, now before we get into this video, we're going to go ahead and practice safety, and what we are going to do is we're going to clear the firearm. Now, I happen to know that this firearm is empty. I cleared it prior to this video, but for the sake of the viewers, if anybody is new to firearms, anytime that you clear a firearm, make sure that you drop the mag first. You never clear the firearm by pulling the slide back and checking the chamber. You will always drop your mag first. Now, why you do that? Now, this is common sense to most people, and let me rephrase that because I think that can sound very insulting, especially if you're new to firearms. You might not understand the way it works at all, and so I don't want to just assume that, so I apologize for that statement. But your magazines here feed the bullets into the chamber, okay? And so with that being said, you want to remove your magazine prior to ever pulling the slide back. So after we have removed the magazine, we're going to pull the slide back, and we're going to show our chamber is cleared. As you can see there's no rounds, okay? Awesome, awesome. Now, for the sake of this video, I am going to put the magazine back in because the magazine is required on the Smith & Wesson 6906 in order for the slide to be held back or for the slide stop to engage, okay? So I want to show you this right now. Once I put the mag back in, when you pull the slide back, now your slide will stop. If I were to remove that magazine, put the slide forward, you'll notice it doesn't catch, okay? Now, that's an important thing to note, okay? Now, one of the things I will say to you, the Smith & Wesson 6906 was produced from 1989 to 1999. So it had a 10-year run. Many of these pistols were made, very good guns, primarily used as a law enforcement pistol or a backup pistol. They have an all-steel slide and an aluminum alloy frame. Wonderful guns. Now, this is the gun that replaced the Smith & Wesson Model 669, which was produced from 1985 to 1988. Okay, so this was made 89 to 99. The 669 was made from 85 to 88. Now, the good news about that is the magazines for both the 6906 and the 669, sorry, I'm getting mixed up saying this, are interchangeable. There's other good news. The 50 series handguns that were the larger frames with 15 round magazines, double stacked 9mm, also fit in this gun. So although it won't be a flush fit like you see this one here, if you find those mags, you could still have a higher capacity with a magazine that will stay put and fit well in here, okay? But it's just going to hang down a little bit lower and not have that nice flush fit look. But at least you could do some extra shooting with it. So that's some great news. Now, as I was saying before, why should you buy this particular gun, okay? And I'll get into that. I will note here, one of the things I love about this gun before I go completely into why you should buy this is it's both a single action and a double action, okay? So right now it's in single action because the slide has been pulled back. It has approximately a 4.5 to 5 pound trigger pull when it's in the when it's been pulled back into single action, okay? So my trigger pull here is going to be very light. Okay, awesome. Now keep this in mind though. Similar to that of a revolver, that's what double action is. It's where when you pull the trigger, the hammer is engaged. Now, the reason this is single action and double action is because you cannot pull the trigger and cause a round to come out of the chamber if there wasn't, or a round to come out of the magazine if there wasn't a round in the chamber already, okay? So you would pull back the slide and a round would go into the chamber, and then it's in single action mode. However, if you started out with a round in the chamber and you didn't have this hammer ready to go, for example, what's awesome about the 6906 is it has this ambidextrous decocker. That's what this is here. You'll notice when you slide this down, your hammer goes forward. Now, it will not engage a round and it will not cause your gun to fire off. This doubles as a safety, but it also keeps it from actually striking the primer, okay? Just so you're aware. And with that being said, once you put this back in place, it also decocks your trigger. That's wonderful because now it's in double action mode. Now in double action mode, this gun has about a 10-pound, 9.5 to 10-pound trigger pull. That's very similar to that of a revolver. One of the things I love about that, and why I think that's so great, is because it offers you the most safety while being ready to go in the event you need to be. Okay, why is that? Because it's very unlikely that you're going to do something that's going to pull the trigger at a weight of 10 pounds. Okay, so it offers you a lot more safety of not having to worry about the gun going off. Okay, so I think that is a wonderful thing about the 6906. Now let me get into why I believe this gun is going to become a collector's piece and is going to go up in value over time. All right, now if y'all don't know this, in the 1980s, mid 1980s, late 1980s, Glock got their start. All right, they came out of Austria. Something that's important and why this affects this particular pistol and other guns made like this is Glock was producing their guns from polymer frames. The polymer frames were very inexpensive to produce. So when Glock came on the scene, although many people weren't taking them seriously, they were able to produce guns for much less price and sell them at a much higher profit ratio. So for example, a Glock made with a polymer frame was able to be sold at a 60% profit margin. Now if you compare that to a Smith & Wesson that had a steel slide and an aluminum alloy frame, or maybe they're all steel models, which were actually profiting at probably 15 to 20% profit margin. All right, so compare the two, 60% profit margin to 15 to 20% profit margin. Because Glock was making money hand over fist through their profit margins, it allowed them to produce quicker. It allowed them to basically do a lot. All right, now basically they had the Rockefeller effect. Now, if you're not familiar with Henry Rockefeller, now this has nothing to do with guns, but I believe these two scenarios coincide. Henry Rockefeller was an oil tycoon. Now, back in the day, we're talking many years ago. Now, I'm not trying to give everybody a history lesson. I don't know everything about Henry Rockefeller, but what I do remember is that the way they ended up monopolizing on the oil market was they were able to produce the barrels that carried the oil for less money than the other producers. So it wasn't the oil itself, but it was the barrels that carried the oil. All right, so what would happen is the barrels were made with a certain amount of plies of wood, and what happened was Henry Rockefeller had the idea of, I wonder if I could produce the barrels with less wood and thus drive down the cost of the oil by not having to invest as much money into the barrel itself. And what ended up happening was he went all the way down to like 4 plies, and of course the barrels burst, and they ended up going, and the traditional barrel was made with 10 plies, if I remember correctly. And they went all the way up to 9.5 plies of wood, and that is where the number ratio was that could keep the oil inside the barrel without causing it to burst. Okay? That simple half ply, or whatever it was, if they were calling it plies at the time, is what allowed him to gain the market on the oil, to drive down the cost of his oil, and to monopolize so everybody bought from him rather than everybody else. Because previously everybody was on an even playing field. Nobody could charge less or more because everybody had the same investment. But because he had a lower investment, he can sell at a lower cost and steal the market. You get that? And I guess in a sense he didn't steal the market. He just thought differently and was able to bring the same product for less money, and everybody bought from him. And so Glock did something similar. Using a polymer frame that was sturdy, was stable, it can produce a firearm that somebody could defend themselves with, and they could pay less money to get a home defense. What are you going to buy? When it came down to it at the time, if I could have something that was reliable, that would offer a home defense, then of course I'm going to take the one that I could spend $350 on over the one that is going to cost me $500. And that was the real price difference in the two pistols at the time. During the time of this gun's run, $500 was a very common price tag. And so if I could go and buy a Glock at $350, save $150, and you have to think this is in the late 80s to early mid and upper 90s, $150 went a long way compared to today. I mean, by today's standards, you might not think of $150 as big of a deal, but it was huge at that time. You're talking about a gun that cost you 25-30% more than the other one. So why is this going to cause this gun to drive upward? Well, here's why. because of what Glock did, it caused Smith & Wesson to have to change the way they did things. They started producing polymer frame pistols that weren't to the quality and to the nature of guns like this. If you were to bring this gun to modern day, and if Smith & Wesson were to reproduce this same gun all over again, you would be looking at a price tag premium of between $1,200. Dare I say, you might get close to $1,400. The fitment on this gun is incredible. I'm serious, and I'm not trying to over exaggerate. I know I'm saying that like so, but I love 1911s. I shoot 1911s. I love 45 ACP. I've got 1911 and 9mm also. I think a good, well-made 1911 is a hard gun to beat for me shooting wise. I just love them. They're a lot of fun to shoot, but this gun is right up there for me with it in quality of let's say like a Kimber 1911, or that of, Springfield 1911. I mean, the quality is there. It's just well fitted together. You don't have a lot of rattling and shaking when you move it. I mean, I compare this gun to being like a well-made watch, and I used to work with high-end watches, okay? And I'm going to tell you, you could tell a high-end watch when you pick them up by their weight and by how everything was fitted together. You didn't have a lot of looseness and rattling, and this is how this gun is fitted, okay? This is how the 6906 is fitted. It's fitted together very well. It's just a wonderful shooter. Yeah, it carries a little bit more weight than like a Glock 43X, and by the way, I have a 43X. I love that gun, shoots well, but truthfully, it's a bit snappy. And actually, if my wife was in the house right now, she would say, are you talking about my Glock? Like, because she claimed that Glock 43X right after we went out and shot it. She was like, this is my Glock now. And so she would say it's hers. So, okay, so my wife has a Glock 43X. But in firing both of them, I prefer this one over that one. I actually have a feeling when I take my wife out to shoot next, if she shoots this one, she's going to say this is her gun now. And the Glock is going to be obsolete to her. Okay? Just saying. But this gun is awesome. I mean, and now let me say this. I've already shared why I believe the value of this is going to go up to an extent, but here's where I'm going to go next, is you can pick these up still, as of today, and we're in the year 2026. You can still pick these up at surplus stores. You could probably go to somewhere like Ames Surplus, pick one of these up for $350 to $500, depending. If you go to some gun stores, even the big gun store conglomerates like Bass Pro, Sportsman's Warehouse, Shields, and those places are selling used guns now, and you could probably find one of these on occasion for that price range of that $350 to $500 range. And again, if you had to buy this by today's standards, you're talking about a $1,200 gun easy. And so while you still can buy a reliable firearm, I would encourage you to pick it up, okay? Pick it up while you can. These things are awesome. One of the things, you'll notice that mine is a later model of this, not just by the rounded trigger guard, but also by the sights. In 1990 they had the Novak sights introduced on the 6906. By 91 is when they did the rounded trigger guard, and for the rest of the time you would have those things on these pistols. So again, if you have that square to rectangular trigger guard and the older style sights, you have an early model gun in '89. But either one of them are great. I haven't got to shoot the one from the year '89, but this one has been wonderful. So I would encourage you, if you get the opportunity, to go shoot one of these. And by the way, I haven't replaced the recoil spring on this or anything, okay? I took it out the way I got it, shot it. It was wonderful. It didn't have any feeding issues. Now, there was one thing that occurred, and it wasn't a feeding issue or anything like that. It was, like I said earlier, and we showed you in the video, that the magazine is what engages the slide stop, okay? Now, if your magazines get worn out to an extent on the top side of them, it can cause your slide stop not to engage. And so I would encourage anybody to find extra magazines for these guns. There are different models, like I said, that were made that you can get the magazines from, and they should work well in them, no issue. I know on eBay you can find some replacement mags for these right now, but they're going to come out of premium. We're talking $40-50 a mag, okay? So just being honest with you. So if you're able to pick the gun up for, $400 or $500 and you buy another magazine for it, you're in $550. You're still getting this gun at a steal, because you can still buy recoil springs and things for this gun, and you can have a reliable shooter that will outlast you, and a great carry gun. I mean, a great carry gun that offers awesome safety. Honestly, with the aluminum alloy frame, it's not that bad. I think this gun comes in at 26.5 ounces, so it's sub 2 pounds, you know, and well under 2 pounds. I mean, 2 pounds 32 ounces, so you're talking a pound and a half, a little better. So great gun. So if you get the opportunity to pick one up, or maybe you've been thinking about it and you're unsure, let me tell you like this. I got the gun, and at first I was like, man, it's a little bit beat up, you know. I mean, it's used. It obviously was most likely a police carry gun, but I cleaned it up a bit, you know, oiled it up, and actually, all right, I'll admit, guys, I didn't even clean it before I went and shot it the first time, okay? I'll just admit that. But I did clean it afterwards, and it shot wonderfully, okay? So maybe when I go back, I won't have the issue where the slide stopped that one time again, because I cleaned it up. Oh, and I polished the feed ramp, you know, so I could make sure it's good to go. Great gun, awesome shooter, and anyhow, if this video made sense to you and you know, you want to go get one and maybe this inspired you a little bit, please give me a like and a subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Thank you so much.